Okay, so this video is in relation to simulation, which you'll need to know for assignment two. So this is the linkage arm part, and we're going to run a simulation on it, but it's quite similar to the Conrod part, which you drew a 3D model for in the assignment one. So you're going to use that Conrod part and create a simulation for it and run a technical report, and then make changes to the model to either reduce the weight and or reduce the stress. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually look at the mass properties of this part. So I'm just typing mass properties into my search command. Okay, so there's no material applied to this part, so you can see the density is 0.04 pounds per cubic inch. So I'm just working in inches. Okay, so um that's really not what I want, because there's no material applied, so that's not accurate. So if I look at the volume, it's 1.55 cubic inches. Okay, so if we take a wee note of that, um, because if we make changes later, we want to see if we have reduced the volume. Okay, so if I just close that, so the next thing then is simulation. Okay, so in most of SolidWorks that we will be working on, it hasn't probably been added in. So what I can do is go to the cog options, add-ins, and I want to make sure SolidWorks simulation is ticked and click OK. So by doing that, simulation tab appears here. I click on that. Okay, so I want to do a new study, so I click new study. I want it to be static, so that's grayed out, and then I'm going to call it simple simulation. Okay, and okay. So now down my feature tree, I will have um, the part is called linkage. Okay, and that is where you can apply a material, change the geometric conditions, or make changes to the geometry. Connections is for part-to-part interaction. Now we only have one part at the minute, so it's not relevant, so we don't need to worry about it. But if you had other parts interacting with this, that would come into play. Then you have fixtures. Okay, so it's basically, it defines part to ground interaction. So parts not modeled on screen. So if I'm going to hold this part here at this end, it's effectively fixtured and it's not modeled on screen, but that's where I can define it. It's basically a way to hold a part or a face from moving. Okay, so then external loads is where you define a force or pressure. Okay, mesh is basically, it calculates the stress, the strain, and displacement. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is set up my simulation. So I'm going to right click on linkage and I'm going to apply edit material. So I'm going to pick alloy steel. You can see that there's four things in red here, and they all need to have a value for you to be able to run a simulation. They do in this case. So I'm going to click apply and close. Okay. So connections, we don't have any, so we don't need to worry about that. Fixtures, okay. So right click and I want to pick fixed geometry. Okay. So I want fixed geometry highlighted, it's in gray. I want to select in here, so the inside face, okay. And that's okay. And okay. Okay, so the next thing then is external loads. So if I right click on that and I want force, so I want to make sure force, or sorry, not torque, force is grayed out, okay. In here is where you pick the face or the edge, okay. So I'm going to pick the inside face of this, okay. Um, so this is normal too, but we want to apply it in the negative y direction, okay. So going this way. So I want to pick, it's normal here, but I want to pick selected direction. All right. And then I want to pick this edge. Okay. So the arrows are still going that way. I want them to go the other way. So if I go down here, reverse direction. Okay. Then force, I want to apply 500. Oh, so I think that's in newtons, but if I change it to pounds, okay. 500 and click OK. Okay. So the next thing then is mesh. If I right click that, I just want to pick mesh and run. Okay, now this might take a wee while. Okay. Might just take a wee while to run, so you can see it'll give you a progress here. Okay. It's still thinking here. Okay. So I can see now basically that I have a high stress area here and I have high stress on the inside here. I can see that up here is very low stress. Yeah, that out of the way. Very low stress up here. Okay. And potentially you could reduce the diameter of the outer diameter of this. You could increase the fillet here to reduce that a bit. Um, it's quite red here. So I can see here my yield strength is 6.204. Okay, the highest stress here by 10 to the 8 is 3.29 by 10 to the 7. Okay, so I'm below my yield strength. If that was above, you'd know that basically your part's going to fail. But we would like to try and maybe reduce the weight and reduce the stress. So if I wanted to make changes to the model, to do that, I can go into the model tab along the bottom here. Okay, pick that. I can go in and edit. So right click, edit sketch. Okay, so I can change now. I'm working in inches, okay, but I can change this. So it's 1.18 at the minute. I'll change to 1.0. Okay, an inch. And I could change this as well. So I could change this to 0.55. Okay, exit sketch. Okay, so the other thing I could do is increase this fillet here. So if I go to features and fillet and select there, so at the minute it's 0.5 inches. Okay, so I could change that to 0.8. Okay, okay, so this had been mirrored, but it wasn't on both sides. So if I change it here as well, so fillet, change that to 0.8. Okay, and do the same on the other side. Okay. Okay, so I've made changes to the model now. So if I want to go back into simulation, so I have a wee yellow triangle here. So because I've made changes, so I've picked run this study. Hopefully it'll run it again, and I can see if changes have been made. Okay, so it's still thinking. It sometimes can take this a little while, so to run. So just bear that in mind if you want to do multiple and change. Okay, so you can see here now that this is no longer red, so it's still a bit red in here, but we're well below the yield strength, so the part won't fail. Okay, so if I now want to type in mass properties again, okay, and I look at the volume, okay, so 1.39 cubic inches, it was 1.55 cubic inches, so I have reduced the weight. I've reduced the volume, so therefore I've reduced the weight. I've reduced the stress here in this area. Okay, so that's how you can do a simple simulation. So you'll really need to make a start of adding in, go to add-ins, add in simulation, and then it's just a matter of setting up your simulation here with which face or which side you want to fixture. In this case, we've picked this. So on the con rod, it'll be quite similar. You pick one side to fixture. Then you're going to apply a force, and you're going to see what stress is applied, and then you want to potentially make changes to your part to reduce the weight, have little cutouts or ribs possibly, and see how that affects the stress. And then if you go to mass properties, how it affects the weight. I'll produce another video which will show you how to create a technical report. Okay.